It's going to be one of those days, I can tell. Welcome back. It's been a few days since I've posted a Q&A video, and that's not by design. I had taken the time to record 3 separate videos all at the same time so I could edit them down and post them one at a time for you. I thought I was doing a great thing until I started editing the video and saw the little bit of food on my face. Well, so much for that effort. It'll make a blooper reel somewhere someday, I'm sure. There's no food on my face this time, is there? The question for today is, why do I get varying seating depths? Now, I've received this question from a variety of different people and in a variety of different formats. So I'm just going to go over the entire concept in one video just so that I can cover it completely and make sure that I fulfill all of your needs, at least to the amount I can, and within the limits of my knowledge. The first thing we have to think about is not why are they varying, but why do I think they are varying? This is a dummy. It doesn't have a primer in it. I don't take live ammunition on videos. Are you listening to me, YouTube? This is not live ammunition. This is a dummy. This is for illustration purposes only. Why would we think we have variation in seating depth? Well, typically we measure from the ogive up here. I'm putting my finger behind it so I can kind of aim at the spot. And we measure from there to the head, right? That's how we measure. Not necessarily. Not everyone measures that way. Some people measure from the case head to the tip of the bullet, like that. Some people measure to the ogive. And then others, specifically the accuracy 1 gauge, measures from the datum on the shoulder to the ogive. The first thing that you have to consider in any variation in seating depth is, where am I measuring from and to? We'll get back to why that's important in a few minutes. But let's talk about a few creatures that might be causing problems. Now, this is out of my Wilson die for this round. Okay, anybody know what that is? That's our seating stem. Our seating stem has a hole in it. That hole allows the bullet to go inside. Yes, I crossed my eyes while I was trying to get that in there. Sorry, the focus depth is a little different between the camera and the seating die. But it goes inside. And when it goes inside, it has to have some room in there. If the tip of the bullet strikes the inside of the seating stem, you are going to get variations based on the overall length of the bullet itself, not based on where you're seating from. The next thing to consider is there is going to be a difference between where the seating stem contacts the bullet here and the ogive location, which is about where the tip of my finger is. If you can see that, put it in front of my shirt maybe. Maybe you can see it there. There's the consideration of where we're measuring from and to anytime we measure. Datums matter. It's a simple engineering concept. The datum, where you're measuring from, matters. Let's go back and consider the shoulder for a moment. Let's say we're using an accuracy 1 seating depth gauge. So we press the bullet in, and now, instead of measuring from here to here, finger to finger, so to speak, we are going to measure from somewhere up here on the bullet to somewhere here on the shoulder. This is important. I'm not saying that the accuracy 1 gauge is the problem here. I'm saying that your sizing process is. So, if I get variations in my headspace, my shoulder bump, whatever you want to call it, on your case, I'm going to get variations in my seating depth. It's important to understand that that seating process is reliant upon the sizing process if we're really considering what the case does when the primer gets struck. When the firing pin strikes the primer, it's going to shove the case forward until the shoulder intercepts, at which point it stops. Well, if I've got a bunch of space here and I've set my jump and then I slide it in, the jump just got a lot shorter before the cartridge ignited. So the critical distance is from the ogive to the shoulder. If we do not have a consistent case sizing process and we have one that's 3 or 4 thousandths shorter than another, it's going to have a different jump when the charge ignites. That's why it's important to have all of your processes consistent. If you can't go through a batch of sized brass and find less than 1/1000th variation from the longest to the shortest, you need to work on that sizing process. Or you're going to have to sort everything. And that's a bunch of work. Which brings me back to the concept in my stop measuring everything video. Now we've talked about the seating stem and how that can influence the seating depth. We've talked about how measuring from a different place than we're seating from changes the seating depth measurement, but not necessarily the result of the seating die. The last thing to consider in seating depth consistency is the condition of the inside of the neck prior to seating. Now we've talked about using NeoLube number 2, which I think I've beaten that horse to death. Let's talk about something else here. Let's talk about the consistency of the friction instead of one particular product to fix an inconsistent situation. The consistency of the friction is critical. There's a couple of reasons. When I put force on a case, end to end, squeezing it, it's going to flex some. Now it may be microscopic to where you can't see it. It doesn't mean it's not flexing. And if it flexes, it's going to spring back some. Now, if I have variations in the amount of force that it takes to press the bullet into place, those variations are going to lead to varying amounts of spring back, which is going to cause variations in your seating depths. Brass springs back, guys. It does. If I put force this way on this case, that shoulder is going to flex in. I don't care what case it is. It's going to flex in some, and it's going to kind of mushroom here. And when I take the force off, it's going to snap back. Well, if I stop under force and then let go, it's going to snap back some. It's going to spring back. So you're going to get a little change in your seating depth as that spring back occurs more and more as your forces change. That's why it's important to get similar forces from case to case. This is why it's important to get a carbon layer inside of the neck and avoid seating into dead clean brass, because that does lead to variations, especially with high neck tensions. If you're using very small neck tensions, you can probably get away with it. But if you're using some of the bigger neck tensions like I do, which is 3+ thousandths, you're going to need something between that bullet and the case neck to get really consistent seating. If I've missed anything, leave a comment below. Let me know what part of the subject I didn't cover that you wanted to see. And as always, if you have questions, send them to winninginthewind@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to make a video for you. Thanks for watching. I'll see ya.